Hello friends, welcome to Hybridacademy and to the fourth session of Learn Photography. In this complete course, we will learn how to capture pictures perfectly, and in the fourth session we will learn all about composition. That is, composing photograph the right way. Here's a small brief on Hybridacademy imparting professional education. We have a thought to change billions of lives by providing professional education accessibly and affordably, to reskill and upskill the professional level of education, and to make continuous learning a part of life and to make personalized education accessible. We focus on interactive education because it is engaging and better for learning. So please like, share and subscribe our channel so that every time you are notified whenever some new content is posted. We are looking forward to your support. So if we see in detail, in this fourth session we will learn how to compose the photograph in the right way. We will compare the vision of camera with human vision and will learn about few composition techniques. After this, in the end, we will summarize everything we have learned and will know what we will learn in the next session. In case if you have any queries or questions, please feel free to ask the same in the comment box. Now let's quickly start with our session, composition, and why learn about composition. Do you like your tabletop all messed up, or will you like if things on your table are properly organized and easily accessible? Similarly, if the subject and other objects in your photograph are not properly organized or placed, the final picture will end up in a mess. A properly organized picture or photograph will communicate your vision and will look a lot more balanced. It will present the advantage of photograph subject in optimum way, utilizing and detailing its potential in the most creative manner. Learning about composition will make you learn various techniques to groom your compositional and presentational skills, and lastly, it will also help you to visualize things in a different perspective. It is important to understand how to express your creative thoughts with a picture, which is confined within 4 sides, in comparison to the human vision, which can be adjusted dynamically as per the requirement. It is like communicating in a speechless language which can be understood to the complete world. Going further, let's understand what is composition. The term composition means putting together. This can be applied to any form of art like music, where musical thoughts are put together to form a rhythm. Writing, where words are put together to form a story. Drawing, where colors are put together to make a sensible drawing. Or photography, where the subject and other objects or prop around are put together or arranged together in a way that it not only looks good but also makes a positive sense. Composing an image means arranging the elements, that is, the prime subject and objects around it in a way that suits the core idea or goal to express the thought or concept you wish to share. This arrangement can be done by actually moving the objects or subjects, or by moving the angle of taking the photograph, which is also called reframing. For examples, the picture below are showing very good composition of portrait or still life photography. Further, if you remember, we discussed in the second session that the human vision in one frame is of 130 degree. However, only the middle 50 degree of view is in focus, and remaining 40 degree on each of left and right side goes out of focus. Camera makes our job a bit easier, that it only shows the middle 50 degree and the rest of the picture gets cropped or hidden from the final output. So we ultimately have to compose only the middle 50 degree area visible to our viewfinder And going further, we will learn various ways and techniques to compose our picture the perfect way. Now we are in the most important section of learning composition techniques or methods. Before going further, let me tell you a fact agreed by most of the photographers that great photos are made, not taken. So let's know how to make your photos great by learning the composition techniques. Here is a list of composition techniques or methods, and we will elaborate and discuss each one of these one by one. Please ensure not to use them all in one picture, else too much of ingredients will spoil the recipe. We will definitely learn all of these techniques. However, we'll use only one or two of them in a picture at one time. This will definitely improvise our picture. With no further delay, let's start. The first composition technique is called horizontal horizons. I believe this technique is the most simple one and should be implemented on almost every photograph. Some of us have the inability of not holding the camera square and click a tilted image. Then give an excuse that it doesn't matter much as the subject has been captured and it's digital, so we can rotate it and crop it later on. Holding the camera straight and keeping far horizons horizontal actually gives a very good shot. This also saves you from losing big corner wedges of the picture, which may be resulting in huge content loss and of course losing quality of the image. Pictures are made with pixels placed horizontally and vertically. If you have to rotate it, save it, few pixels get smeared and you lose a lot of actual shot clarity. So it's better to get the right shot. The best way to get the right shot is to look for far off horizons or anything that is boldly visible in your picture and is supposed to be in horizontal or in a horizontal fashion. Just align it properly with the bottom edge of the viewfinder or your picture frame. Let us assume that you are shooting a building which is supposed to be vertical. Just align it with the vertical edge of your viewfinder or with the vertical edge of your picture. This will help you to achieve this composition technique to be perfect. Nowadays, many cameras have the feature of digital inbuilt level, which is very handy and if available should always be used to assist you in your pictures. Now let's learn the next technique, which is very popular and is actually very important from the perspective point of view. This technique is known as rule of thirds. You might have probably heard of this one. The rule of third actually negates the concept of placing the main subject in the center of the screen. Placing the main subject somewhere in any of the 1/3 corner looks somewhat better, where you actually give the subject some space in front to breathe. To actually implement the rule of third, you have to mentally divide the picture into these vertical and horizontal thirds and try to somehow place the subject along with these lines or especially on the red dots as much as you can. So if you have got a strong horizon, you might put them on the bottom third or the top third depending on which section of the photo needs much space. Similarly, if you have a vertical subject, you might put them on the left vertical or the right vertical third. So moving back to the same example, putting the subject on the bottom left third of the frame looks a lot better. Also, as mentioned in the last slide, if we can put the subject on any of the red dots, they are the very strong points of the frame and the picture looks really good. Now here are some more examples of the pictures which are considered to be good in terms of composition, and you can notice that this rule of third applies to almost all the pictures. Now you must be in a dilemma as to which side of the photo you should put your subject, or on which third you should place it. Just try and remember that it is always better to give your subject some room to move into or see into, or if they are looking or moving in a direction, no one cares what's behind them. They want to see forward. So you crop all the extra space behind and giving them the extra space in the front. Please notice that in this picture also we have extended the free space in front of the subject and not at the back, giving it some extra looking space or breathing space. Some people call this extra space in front as the nose room. Whatever you call it, this is for sure that this actually takes the picture composition to a next level. Now we have a problem here. We all know that it is very difficult every time to move the focus point for each picture, and the most prominent point of focus is in the center of the camera frame. Placing the main subject on any of the third actually displaces the point of focus, resulting the main subject out of focus or blurred. As if we follow the rule of third, the center point of focus usually falls at the background of the picture. To resolve this, first place the center point of focus on your subject, then half press the shutter button to lock the focus on the subject with a tin-tin sound. Once the focus is locked, move your camera to reframe the picture in a way that now your subject lies on the suitable third, and full press the shutter button to click the final picture. This not only eases the task but also ensures that the subject is in good focus. Another tip regarding the focus point is that if you are photographing a person or animal and you can see directly in their eyes in the shot, that is where you need to focus on. That's an important part of any picture, which has to be in sharp and in full focus. That is how you use your center point of focus and put it wherever you want in the picture before you want to take the shot. Now this rule of thirds also has an exception, and as per my knowledge, the only exception to the rule of third is the pictures in which you have a reflection. In such pictures, you do not want to put the horizon or the reflection point to any of the horizontal thirds, as that will disturb the balance of the picture. In such photos, symmetry is the thing which is going to make these pictures look beautiful. However, in such photos, you can look for the vertical plane, and it still applies the key part of the photo where you can place the vertical subject on any of the vertical thirds, resulting in a good composition. At times when we take a photograph, we try to fit in everything that is looking good. However, that actually spoils a good composition. At times we think zooming out the picture will include all the surroundings looking great, and we will capture everything in one frame. This completely disturbs the good composition. To get a good composition, just ensure that the subject is properly visible and follows the rule of third. No one is interested to see the surroundings, so if you even crop it to reframe your picture following the rule of third and exclude all the unwanted things around, it forms a very good composition. The next composition technique is framing, and this is particularly good for your landscape photos. Framing is a technique in which you deliberately or intentionally include something up close into your photo so that it tends to look a bit 3D and gives a lot more depth. It also stops your eye falling off the edge of your photo and kind of frame it by putting something along the edges or the sides of the photograph. Compared to the last picture, we have now added a few elements to frame the picture, resulting in depth. Also, because of the elements in foreground, it tends to pull our attention backwards towards the middle of the picture. These framing elements also stop our eyes from slipping away from the picture. Here is another example of landscape picture. It has view of distant mountains, clouds and water, but the problem is that everything in the picture is so far off that the picture becomes totally flat. Let's now find something near to our camera which adds a sort of framing to our picture, giving depth to the landscape and adding three-dimensional perspective to our picture. This is another example of a nice sunset showing a great horizon, but again seems too flat and everything seems to be at similar distance and too far. Just changing the angle a bit to add a few branches of a tree actually completes the picture by adding a sort of frame and giving the required depth to the picture. This tree branch initially seems to be blockage, but later on taking the shot with it, the picture now seems to be pulling our attention into the sunset and looks a whole lot better. Moving further to the next technique of composition, and it is to check backgrounds. This is again the easiest one to implement but makes your picture looks multiple times better without doing any complex calculation like the rule of thirds. This is one of my favorites also, as it allows you to actually show the creative angle of your photography. The human eye is really very good at ignoring what is going on in the background of your photo. You will actually not notice that until you click a picture and then you will see, oh, so much of distraction in the background. Such distractions can totally ruin or spoil your shot. What is the car doing in the background? At times your photograph gets some distractions like a power pole, someone moving behind, or a bright light, which the human eye ignores but are very prominent in the photograph. I know it can later be photoshopped or edited, but as a photographer, this is actually a concern of consciousness, where background is actually just one of the things to remember. While clicking the picture, just give one glance at the background after setting the subject and see if the background or any other element in the picture is a bit distracting. You can actually move a bit on your left or right or change the angle of the photograph to get a premium shot. Like in this example, the lion is not having any prominent distraction and is actually looking awesome, but the background of the color similar to the lion actually blends completely, downgrading the overall output or creative quality of the picture. So in this picture, if we get down lower a bit, take his photograph against the sky, which is in contrast blue color, the lion actually pops out in a much nicer way and is prominently visible. For the next example of the background composition technique, we have these small birds shot from quite a distance. After clicking the shot, it was noticed that the black head was again getting merged in the black shadow on the background water. No matter how good your lenses are, setting the aperture and blurring the background, the similar color of background is spoiling the quality of output. The birds are dark and even the background behind them is also dark, not making sense at all. To resolve this, we need to look around and think where can we see a color in contrast to the color of birds. The only contrast color visible was the reflection of sky in water of blue color. So we thought of again changing the angle and took it from a bit height to get the background as blue from a different angle and height. This blue background actually turned out to be great and the shot was 100 times better than the original shot taken. Another example of this background composition technique is this small ant on a stem. And here, although we see that the background is somewhat in contrast with the golden and green ant, but still the picture is not looking that prominent. Now since this picture is also a lot zoomed in, changing the angle slightly got a leaf of the same plant in the background and it gave a very prominent green background, changing the complete shot in an awesome beautiful shot. Next time when you take a picture, just remember to glance into the background to check if something there is distracting or if the background is in sync with the subject. If yes, just turn a bit or check around for the right background as it enhances the quality of the photograph multiple times. Now the next composition technique is fill the frame. Sometimes cropping the photo to the main subject gives entirely a different perspective. People have an urge to try and fit in everything in a single frame. This technique actually guides you to avoid that. Most important is to concentrate on the actual content or subject and try to get an angle or perspective to highlight the same, cropping out all the other distractions. This way the actual subject looks bigger and much in attention, cropping away the things which are too obvious. Looking at the example, you will say this is a woman swimming with a blue starfish, but if you actually try to detail the shot, taking the shot of complete woman is actually distracting, and the main subject blue fish is not getting the complete attention. Taking a cropped shot of just the starfish and the hand of the woman also gives the same meaning. Looking at this picture also, you will say this is a woman swimming with the blue starfish, but in this case the starfish is a lot in focus and prominent. This is a much simpler and cleaner shot. Looking at the next example where a lady is walking down the street carrying a bunch of fishes. Looking at the overall picture seems interesting, but hang on, what is the actual interesting here? It's definitely not her wonderful happy expression or a tractor coming from far behind, those power lines coming out of her shoulder. We now need to think what is actually interesting that caught the attention. The fact she is carrying a bunch of fishes, which is the main subject, caught the attention. So if we zoom in the fishes, that might look more sensible and attractive. Here even the half of the fish body is also cut, but that isn't relevant as it is but obvious. This picture can be useful on a brochure of a local market or any other creative, but the initial picture with the lady was too distracting and would not be of much use. Here are some more examples of fill the frame, where you don't need to fit in the whole thing or everything, and taking the cropped close-up shot gives entirely a different perspective and raises the level of photograph. The idea here is to express the subject in a prominent way, cropping out all the irrelevant objects around, and even at times cropping the subject also to highlight the actual fact related to the object. The next composition technique is leading lines. Leading line is any line coming into the photo from outside. It serves to guide your eye through the photo. Like in this picture, your eyes come along the railing and goes to where the people are standing. This sort of drives you into the photo, and then you realize that the people are also watching something. Oh, it's the rainbow. And all this just ties together very neatly. Otherwise, some photos just feel a bit lost and disjoint. You can often link up things along the line, and here are a few more examples of leading lines, where lines in each of these pictures lead you or drive you into the picture. Normally, in all pictures you don't get convenient leading lines around, but in some, if you look around for them, you can often find them. If you have a leading line, the good tip is to make sure that it comes through the corner of the shot to drive in the picture. This makes the shot a lot more effective if they come exactly from the corner. Next composition technique to discuss is anything but eye level. For this, try not to take every single photo from normal standing height because then everything just looks the same. As discussed earlier, if you are photographing a person or animal and you can see directly in their eyes in the shot, that is where you need to focus on, and that's an important part of any picture which has to be sharp and in full focus. Getting up high or getting down low can be a way to add a whole new angle of interest to your photo with completely a new perspective. Clicking a picture from a different perspective may actually change a boring subject into an interesting one. Like this picture of bike is taken from a really low vantage point, making it interesting and beautiful in comparison to a normal photo of bike. These kind of photos actually stop you when you are flipping through the pages of a magazine. Getting at the same level of the subject actually turns any photo look amazing. For example, picture of this baby penguin taken from a standing height looks normal with footsteps on the sand, whereas when taken from a height of penguin gives entirely a different perspective with clouds, shadow on the sand, and the baby penguin looks so tall. Another example where the photographer is trying to capture the photo of a dog getting down at the eye level to get the right perspective. At times, to get the best composition, you have to get down too low, even to the floor level, to match the subject. Getting the same level of key subject gives you the right perspective. Here's a photo of a lizard shot from a low height, but still it's not low enough to get the eye level. This is the same lizard shot from eye level, and you can yourself make out the difference in the quality of composition. This picture shot from the eye level of lizard definitely gives a stronger composition and is far better in terms of creative quality. Also, please see that the shot is arranged in such a way that one eye of the subject, that is lizard, perfectly fits the rule of thirds. Next composition technique is to look for details. Spot for the details that other did not notice, and when you click any such photograph, it really amazes people as they never thought from that perspective. It's really easy to get interesting photos if we start looking for little details. This is really good for close-up shots or macro shots. Just put any interesting detail to main focus and the picture will automatically turn amazing. Here are a couple of examples where the small details of subject turned the photos so interesting. The next composition technique is take vertical photos or portrait photos. Some subjects just fit a vertical frame a whole lot better. Even such wide landscapes, which are usually shot horizontally in landscape mode, give a different perspective if shot in a portrait fashion. The same landscape shot in portrait mode looks a way taller than the landscape one, and it seems like the person standing on the cliff is on so much height. This shows a different perspective how portrait shots change how the subjects look like. Like here, this cliff looks so taller in portrait shot. Some subjects themselves are by default made for portrait shots. These subjects look irrelevant if taken in landscape mode and would actually fit the best in vertical shots. So whatever you shoot, just try to check which subject fits what kind of composition nicely, and if you are still confused, just take two shots of the subject, one in landscape mode and the other in the portrait mode. The next composition technique is point of view. This is purely the matter of perspective on how you observe a subject and how you capture it. This composition technique may totally vary from person to person and from photographer to photographer. However, the ultimate goal is to make our subject look attractive. For example, here's a photograph of a building shot straight up. This is another example where the photograph is taken straight from top, also commonly known as top shot. This cup will probably not look better from any other point of view, as the main subject to capture here is the flower made on top of the coffee served. Another example of the top shot point of view is the shot of these trees taken from the top view drone. These trees are covered by snow and are giving purple shade in the late evening after sunset. This is another example of trees, but this time shot from bottom in up direction or straight up direction. These gives a different perspective in comparison to the previous shot. And here is another example of point of view. The photograph is taken from a very low angle and is also following the concept of leading lines from bottom left corner. The green algae grown near the roots of the tree are giving entirely a different glow to the picture. The next composition technique is a simple one, and it is simplicity. Some things are the best when they are simple. This technique actually depicts the same. Capturing the subject the most simple way without any props or without any additional supports reflects simplicity. Here are a few examples showing the simple way of capturing the subject. The last and the final composition technique is break the rules. Sometimes looking at the situation or the subject or the angle of shoot or even availability of the resources, you have to break the rules, and breaking the rule for the good of the photograph is perfectly fine. Here are a few examples of some beautiful shots where no rule is followed but the output is really awesome. Today in lesson 4, we have learned a lot about new composition skills and its different techniques. This will definitely help you to learn the importance of visual awareness and will make you more versed with the vocabulary we use in photography, expanding your skills and knowledge to the next level. Going forward, we will learn a lot about photography. Going forward in the next session, we will learn about how much light is enough, what are the stops, light meter, and how the exposure can be compensated. We will add a few new words to our photographic vocabulary in relation to exposure and light. Thank you for joining the complete session. Please share and subscribe our channel so that your friends also get benefited with the information, acquire free knowledge, and learn new things. We are eagerly looking forward to your support. Thanks, take care, stay safe, and hope to see you in the next session.